G'day guys, welcome back. This is Too Many Projects, Not Enough Time. I'm Andrew, in the shop here today with Ivy. Finally, now it's winter and getting cold and snowy, or at least the lake snowy. And we've got Timbit too. He's down on the floor there because he's low to the floor. Finally we're back. Here we are. And as I said in my last video, we really want to get this lump making brum brum sounds by Christmas. Christmas is 4 weeks away. Now it's easy, you say, just plug a couple of things in and away we go, which you're right. But because I have a normal job Monday to Friday, I get to play with these things on the weekends. So the summer, it was taken up by my place at the lake, Camp Tinny, my other YouTube channel. Hey, its subscribers have grown pretty quickly. We don't want to outgrow this channel. So go on over there or subscribe here and let's see which one grows the biggest, the fastest. Camp Tinny is the other one. Links in below. Too Many Projects, Not Enough Time. Mechanical stuff. The other one's more the camping and outdoorsy stuff and the abandoned homesteads and cabins that we visit in the outdoors. Anyway, so this video, we're going to fill it full of blood. Make sure everything's buttoned up, and we're going to set the distributor and make sure all the holes are buttoned up so stuff doesn't puke out of it. Now we're going to get it running to start with without the coolant in it, just to make it go brum brum, shut it down. That's my goal for Christmas, not running long periods or anything like that, because we still got to do the radiator mount, which is coming up in this video real soon, because that's what I really want to get next, is to get the grill and the radiator mount and everything done. Part of that is the fenders. I have located fender tops. One of my followers, Chris, thank you very much. He has located some in Australia and then broken down to just the fender tops. Amazing job, thank you very much. Because I can't seem to find nice fender tops here in Canada where I'm located. So throw it out there, if there's any of you Aussie guys that's watching my channel and you're coming to Vancouver or anywhere really in Canada, because I'll pay for shipping even from the other side of Canada back to me, if you could want to bring it as carry-on luggage, not carry-on, sorry, check-on luggage, let me know. Happy to pay a little bit of the way there, obviously, any costs involved. Just to cut down the shipping costs. They are quite high from Australia if I was to ship it. Worst case scenario, I'm going to Australia next year, so I'll bring it back myself, or I'll just foot the bill and pay for the shipping. My original searching into shipping costs seemed quite reasonable, but now push comes to shove and I really need to do it, they seem to have got a lot more expensive. It doesn't matter. All for the project of poor Ivy here. But I do need fenders so I can start working other stuff out. Besides the fenders, where the grill's going to mount perfectly. I need to find out how much room we've got to put a heater on this side. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we're up to where I need to figure out fenders, of placement of other stuff going on. If not, it's all good. Patience, the 101. She's now tucked away in bed up at the lake, and I think we got minus 30-degree weather coming next week. So she's awfully chilly and cold, but she's not on the salty roads down here in Vancouver. So she's tucked away for the winter, so I can have some time to work on Ivy, and running good. So I figured out what the problem was, or what was making all the noise, which I thought was the generator / alternator, 24-volt system in Patience. So I had the generator rebuilt. That problem that I mentioned in the previous video is solved. It turned out there was a loose connection with inside it. When it was rebuilt, it wasn't found. Problem solved, problem fixed, all good. Great service there. And now we've replaced the bearing in that noise that was generated by the generator. I don't know why I wrote it off in my head as being the tensioner pulley, but it turned out to be the tensioner pulley. So it's been removed. It's on top of the box behind the camera right now. When I go up for Christmas at the lake, Camp Tinny, I'll reinstall that, and she should run really quiet then for noises from the generator, top of the engine area, which will make it really nice to drive it. Except now, as I backed her off the trailer, because I took her up on the trailer, She doesn't want to turn left. Of all things. Drove around the block here, pulled up on the trailer, strapped her down, took her up there, about a 7 to 8 hour drive, and pulled up, unchained her, backed her off the trailer, went to turn left to swing her around to take her and park her in the shed. She doesn't want to turn left. So I guess I'll have a video in Christmas time when I go back up there and I put the pulley back in. I'm going to pull all the linkages and everything off the steering to find out if it's steering box or which CV joint it is. Or is it just the steering dampener has somehow caught? I don't know. We'll find that out at Christmas time in another video. Figure out why she doesn't want to turn left. I don't know. My plans for NASCAR, maybe she wasn't on board with that. She doesn't want to turn left, can't go in NASCAR races, so who knows. As for NASCAR, for my US friends, happy Thanksgiving. Here in Canada we call it Thursday, so happy Thursday to all my friends here in Canada and everyone else around the world. Thanks for watching. I hope I've earned your appreciation. Click on that big red button below. So, I guess, let's start doing a bunch of stuff. I'm going to take the plugs out, spray some WD in there just so we got a little bit of lubrication going on. I'll take a look in the plug holes, make sure there's nothing settled or grown in there. While this engine has been not in a vehicle, mostly in here in the shed, but not in a vehicle for probably 10 years now. I've had this engine sitting. So we'll do all that, then we'll turn it over a bunch of times by hand. Going to leave the plugs out. Going to take the valve covers off, or at least one valve cover off. So as we crank it over by hand to start with, make sure everything's good. Then we'll crank it over with the starter to make sure we're getting oil pumping up to the lifters on top. And once we confirm we've got oil pumping through it, then we'll bolt it. Covers back on, plugs back in, intake back on, then we can set the distributor up. Hopefully we're going to do all that this weekend. Let's get at it. Thanks guys.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now. Let's begin now.
Alrighty, so we've hit our first snag here already. This engine was a good running engine. It's got about 120,000-ish kilometers on it. Was running in my old Range Rover Classic. It is a 4.6 litre with the cam and gubbins to run a distributor. Has run in this configuration before. I basically took the covers off, flipped it upside down, took the sump off, cleaned the sump up, repainted the sump, put that back on with a new gasket. New gaskets on the top. I did have the front covers off, as you saw in a previous video, but now I can only get about 1/3 of a rotation out of it. I did get 2/3 originally, with a little kind of bump past the first third. But now I can only get about 1/3 of a rotation. Doing it by hand, always important. Do it by hand first to make sure you're getting full rotations before you kick in the starter and really do some damage at that point if there is an obstruction. So now I've got to figure out where that obstruction is. I can hear it back there. But my problem right now is that I'm on my own and I can't do this and climb underneath and listen to narrow down exactly where that metal tink sound is where I'm getting hung up. So while I wait for some help to come and turn this for me, there is a couple of things I found I do need to do. I got to paint those valve covers, so I'm going to do that in the meantime, as well as the dipstick, which I've already fixed. The dipstick tube was, man, that thing was bent way up, and that the dipstick was really hard to get in and out of there. Not sure when and where that happened. It could have been like that when I first got the replacement motor. Who knows? Anyway, so I've straightened that out already. I'm just painting that, and now I'm just going to paint up the valve covers. Comment below. Do you think I'm going to go blue or am I going to go black? I don't know yet either. We'll find out at the end. So come along on this journey to figure out why this isn't rotating 360, and I'll paint those valve covers and we'll get back to you on what I do next to figure out what it is. Hopefully I can figure it out without splitting the gearbox in the engine, but obviously there's something there. Alright, this isn't getting it. So I found the interference, which is just there in the center of my little flashlight, this clutch here, and in fact, doop, you can see right along here, that is where it was interfering and just scraped by, except this one is not, by just a hair. So I think what I'm going to do is turn this so I've got an open section, get in there with the die grinder and take off 1/8 of an inch and see if that clears my issue there. Alright, we're back. Crisis averted. It was just a B stick of a clearance we needed there, so we used the bumblebee to give us the overall extra clearance we needed as a measurement. So now that's going to spin up nicely, and it does. We now get a full 360 out of her without any clearance issues. Whew, I thought I was going to have to separate a whole bunch of stuff there. Alright, time to get some oil in. So the easiest way right now with the distributor out is maybe in through the distributor hole. Because it's still like a, I don't know, a year or two off from getting on the road, we're putting some Lucas 1540 in just to have some oil in there and do the prelim running and stuff. Now hopefully I've done everything up underneath that I need to. I believe I have. Check the sump plug. This should take about 5.5 to 6 liters. The oil pump is packed with Vaseline to help get prime. I don't see any puddles on the floor. That's a good start. Under half of this in there. halfway full. Put a little more, turn it over. That'll fill the filter. The way the filter is, I can't, yeah. If you try and fill it and put it on full, it'll just leak everywhere in the meantime. Alright. Alrighty, so instead of hooking the battery and everything up, I have this rather large booster pack, Noco 4000 amp booster pack. Why do I have such a big one? Well, when we got to the lake and so forth, it's nice to have it just in case we come across someone with a big truck broken down needing to jump, and all that sort of stuff. Ooh, turn the light off. Come on. Alright. And so that's why we have such a big one. Now, down here, I believe, we just need to, it's kind of hidden off camera, but work with me down here. This hasn't screamed for a lot of time, long time. You can do that. I think we got it hooked up, guys. Positive to there, negative to the ground, to the chassis. We got a good ground from the chassis to the engine. Now, will it turn when I press this button? Nope. Alright, what have I done wrong? Alright guys, so I out-thunked myself. Originally I was just going to connect some jumper leads up to the battery on the ground, connect them up like you would normally do old school. And then I thought, hang on a minute, I got this little magical contraption, but it turns out these don't provide you with power until they get feedback from another power source. That's why I was not getting anything setting it up with this thing. So, out with that idea, and we're back to the old battery. So in doing so, just so I don't have to climb under there and connect the positive power cable up, I can just connect it to where the starter button is on the firewall there. Save me climbing on the ground all the time, and maybe get the first bit of wiring on her. Although I think this is 8 gauge, so I think I need to go to 6 gauge, but 8 gauge will get us through for now. Now, if you don't have a crimper to crimp these connections on, the other method is to heat them up with solder in there and then slide your cable in, and then all this gets kind of burnt up and a little bit of a mess. Works good, but then if stuff starts to overheat, get a little hot while you're cranking, that solder can also get hot, and then your cable can fall out at a later date and that sort of thing. So crimping, I don't have a crimper, but we're going to do a redneck crimp. So what I did, I happen to have a stainless one which is a little stronger. Basically take a nut that is going to snugly fit around the shaft, cut that nut in half so you have 2 halves, and then you lose a 1/16 because of the thickness of the blade on your angle grinder, so it'll close up a little tighter. And then basically, I'll adjust the camera here, put your nut around your connector like so. You'll see it in a minute in the close-up. And then put it in your vise and then tighten your vise up, and that will crimp it on for redneck cable crimper. Now, is it as good? Possibly. Is it cheaper? Hell yeah. Is it going to do for what we need to do for right now on the on Ivy to get her turning over so we can get some oil pressure? Absolutely. So let me bring you in close and we'll crimp it up and we'll go put this on, and we're back on track. I almost thought yesterday, because there's another day, Almost toward the end of yesterday when I was not getting anything out of that thing, that I thought, oh man, the starter's toast. But it's not. It was just me using a far too advanced technology to try and get it to crank over. Now, at the very least, I don't think, where are we? I don't think that's going to come loose for what we need to do. Let's go get it in the car. So, after figuring out that the jump booster pack will not power the starter motor because there's no feedback coming back from it to trigger the voltage, I've simply added jumper cables, connected it to the battery, and here we go, we have power. So that will now crank the engine over as we bleed it through. So let me get this set up and we'll give the button a press. Alright guys, so what I'm doing here is I'm going ahead and I'm going to fit a hose into the pressure sender unit on the engine, because over the last week, since last weekend, I really struggled and really want to get this engine pre-lubed before we give it a good first crank with the starter, because it's been sitting for 10 to 12 years and I've been trying to figure out a way to pre-lube it, because I found out pre-lube tanks are really crazy expensive, and I finally came up with an idea with a recycled old fire extinguisher. So there's another video coming out really soon where I show how I made that, and it ended up working really brilliantly. So as I finish connecting up the connection here to the hose into the pressure sender unit hole, which will then, using the pre-lube pressure tank, will go through and pre-lube all the galleries and everything in the engine before we press the button. So let's see what happens. Tighten that fitting back up, and then this end will go on to the pressure tank / fire extinguisher. Okay everybody, here we go. We got the tank charged, line hooked up, clamps on. I've even got the oil cooler bypass connected up and fitted. Let's see how stupid of an idea this was. Now what we're looking for, this may take a couple of charges on the tank. Ideally, it'd be great if I had a fitting to go from the end of my airline to hold constant, like 40 psi under the Schrader valve, and maybe I'll order that piece if but I don't have it with me right now to do a connect line and connect it up to the compressor. So we're just going to have to keep refilling the this tank as we need it. And now a gentle squeeze on the trigger to get some oil moving. There it goes. It's got to fill the oil filter and all the other stuff. I can see the hoses going under a little pressure. as it tries to squeeze that oil through the engine. I'm looking for oil to pop out of any galleries up here, as if the oil pump was running. Get my finger all the way down. I think I see oil coming up here, guys. I see oil appearing there. See oil appearing here. I see oil appearing. Now I'm going to give it, I think we're out of pressure. So I'm going to repressurize it once more. Just so I see more oil coming out. I can definitely see oil coming out up here. Well, I can hear oil squirting somewhere. So I'm not sure if the valve is, I think I can hear oil down in the oil pump area. Let's give the trigger a squeeze. I can definitely see oil coming out. Alright, that leads me to believe we got oil moving. Let's get it good and lubed, because she's been sitting for a good 10 years, if not 12. I'd have to go back and really think about how many years this has been sat. But I got oil coming out there. Alright. I'm going to give her a squeeze and give the starter motor a hit. I think we're even out of oil. The engine's going to be slightly over full, but that's okay, because we're not cranking up yet. And I can hear the oil pump making squirty groany noises. So there's some pressure built up somewhere in there still. Alright guys, I would call that a success so far. So we got the bypass tube for the oil cooler, just using some AN fittings and some threaded tape there. Probably going to use those same fittings to connect up to the oil cooler eventually when we get to that point with the radiator and the front grille and everything mounted. Figure out where I'm putting that oil cooler. We figured out that you can't jump using the jumper pack. You can't use that to power the starter motor, but we did, hook it up to a battery, hook it up to the starter button. She does crank over, and our pre-oiler does work. Unbelievable, holy cow. So for about 20 bucks in parts, including 10 bucks for an old fire extinguisher, that's pretty good, because I think see the minimum I could buy one online was like a couple of $100 US, up to about $500-600 US for a pre-lube tank, and that's pretty amazing. 20 bucks does the same thing. So I think I will get a fitting that does connect, although it probably doesn't make any difference. I only had to charge it twice to do it, so just using a filler into the Schrader valve. But if you did want a little longer, a little more oil to pre-lube, you could get a fitting that fits your hose line, and then the other end is like a tire inflator, but without the trigger on it, the one that just screws onto it, and then just with a valve in the line somewhere, just turn it on, pump oil through it. It seemed to work bloody good. I'm impressed. Pretty much for coming along, watching this video. I'm going to have another one shortly. Now we've kind of pre-lubed and run stuff, and everything sounds right, and there's oil coming out of the top end here. I'm going to assume that the oil pump is primed as well now. Originally did have a pack full of Vaseline because I did have it off when I put it all together, because the pump came with the front cover, which came off a different truck. Next we I got to figure timing out to put the distributor in. I do actually have to find a different harmonic balancer to go on the front. I think I've located one. I'm just waiting to finalize up that deal with the gentleman who has one or two of them, and get that shipped to me, because the one I have here came off a newer engine that does not run a distributor, so they do not have timing marks on that engine because it's all done digitally, electronically. Whereas, because I have a distributor, I need a balancer with a distributor on it. A balancer with timing marks on it, which, from what I can research, only came out in the year of 1995, which was the bridge year between the 3.9s and 4.2s in the Range Rovers, and 3.9s in the Discos, where the front accessories went to a serpentine belt with a distributor. Right after 95, they ditched the distributor, although the housing was still the same. It just wasn't machined out for a distributor for a couple of years. Thus, those engines didn't have balancers with timing marks on it either, because it was all... So anyway, I found one, I hope, from that one year that they had that stuff for this setup. Anyway, boring ya. Thanks for coming along. Please hit the appreciation button, the big red one below, and give me a thumbs up if you like what I'm doing. Follow along. More videos again now. It is the winter. I do have another video coming out shortly. I've already filmed it. I just need to edit it and put it up on how I made the pre-oiler tank for super cheap. So, see you next time, guys.